we're facing some really big challenges. We know that from the news. We know that whichever way we look at it. In several conversations I've been in the last 24 hours, people have been saying that they have never seen the level of polarization, like local polarization amongst families and friends. I had somebody, a friend of mine, call me 2 days ago who had been basically banned from a family home because of her medical choices, basically. And that's an extraordinary thing. I don't think that I ever imagined that I would witness something like that in my lifetime. And yeah, it's a very sad state to see that happening amongst people. For all the knowledge of energy and consciousness, and for all of what I can see happening at a bigger level, it's really hard to see individual people struggling with the current situation so much that they lose their rationality, they lose their sense of friendship and family kinship and just simple human values, and we start locking each other out of our lives. I don't find that I just don't find that an okay way of responding to our fears. I understand why people do it, but I don't feel that it speaks to what being human is really all about. I just know that we're so much more than that. So what becomes very important in these sorts of situations where what we're looking for flies in the face of the best advice currently available. What we're looking for is something new, something beyond what we know, what science can tell us, what experts can explain to us and show us and demonstrate to us. We need something that speaks to that sense that I think most human beings who I've ever met have, which is a sense of your potential, a sense of this power maybe, or possibility that sometimes feels it's locked inside you. Sometimes it feels it's here, it's like you can almost touch it, but very often we feel like it's like there's this potential, but I can't access it fully, or I can't release it, or I can't fully experience it. And so I want to look at how we touch into the superhuman potential, the superpowers, the special abilities that to me are first of all uniquely human. These are to me what elevate us and what makes us really special. And they are also, to me, the answer to how do we go beyond what we know? How do we go to the places where we don't know? We don't know how to go there. We just know that we need to go there. And this is whether we're dealing with a personal healing situation. It's how do I go to a place of healing that my doctor can't do for me, the experts and the scientists can't do for me, and actually no one can do for me. Even my healer can't do that for me. My healer can be there, they can support me, they can help me to relax and create circumstances in which I can heal. But that healing itself doesn't take place because somebody waved their hands over you or stuck needles into you. It takes place because there's this extraordinary phenomenon in human life and in life itself that is constantly healing. There's this energy that we have access to all the time that is healing, is making more whole by its very nature. And then those of us who choose to work with that energy are able to facilitate that for people and help people to have that experience. But what we're looking for now is that at a collective level. I think you might agree with me that if we have to wait for one person at a time to wake up and go through the healing process and go through all the things that we've been through, it might just take too long. And so there's in me a very strong sense that there are things that we can do that operate at a bigger level. And actually, I'm going to tell you a short story that I received by email about half an hour ago. I spoke a little bit about Bosnia yesterday and the beginning of the war in Bosnia, which was where politicians divided people who were friends and neighbors and family. They divided people across the religious boundaries, religious and national boundaries really in Bosnia. Serbian Orthodox, Bosnian Muslim, Croatian Catholic. And people who literally went to school with each other, lived on the same streets as each other, went to their shops and did business with each other. And they just stirred this kind of hatred to such an extent that in the end, some of them caused genocide to others. People were shooting across their own streets, their own neighbors, in the most horrific way. And this woman told me of a workshop she went to in Sarajevo, which is the capital of Bosnia, some years ago. And almost all the people there were Bosnians. And she said there was this incredibly heavy sense of the genocide and just the suffering. And it is quite tangible there in the energy field, just this sheer incomprehensible suffering that happened not terribly long ago in the early 90s. And at one point, the teacher said, "Is there anyone in the room who's feeling indifference?" Which was a very odd question to ask. It felt odd at the time. And then she said that she felt indifferent in some way. And I can't remember the exact details of why she felt like that, but she admitted it, which was probably very uncomfortable for her. And I think they played the song Miss Sarajevo, and it was a very kind of beautiful moment. And after that, she started to speak, and she spoke like in a kind of first person way. But she said the words that came through her were not her words. They came through like from above her and below her and all around her. And she spoke about this incredible pain that she felt at the fact that we had watched that happening and hadn't done enough to stop it. And she said that there was this extraordinary healing that took place in the group. She was a woman. She lives in Portugal, not Bosnian at all. And she was speaking this universal, powerful message to a group of people who'd lost relatives in the war. And the entire group, it seems, experienced this profound healing and love and deep acceptance of the situation, and dropped the story of suffering that had been their story up until then. Very extraordinary moment, and speaks to the power that each one of us has to be the access point for healing to take place at a collective level. If it can happen in a group, if small groups of people meeting over the world can shift situations as they do with intention groups, it can happen at any level by the same principle. And so that's why we're talking about superpowers today. Because we need superpowers. We need to be beyond what we think of as normal human. We need to be beyond that often indifference and apathy and I can't do anything about it. It's too big for me. And we need to recognize what it really means to say that we're all connected. We're all part of the ecosystem.